I get it, you're scrolling through a sea of home theater options and wondering if this Hisense bundle is the one that will actually make your movie nights feel like a mini theater instead of just a bigger TV screen. You've probably already seen the hype about a 100-inch QLED picture paired with a Dolby Atmos soundbar, but the real question is whether the sound will stay clear when the dialogue gets quiet, whether the bass will stay tight without shaking the whole living room, and if the whole setup will actually fit in the space you have. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon, and I'm going to walk through exactly what that looks like in a typical family living room, a small apartment, and a dedicated home theater nook so you can decide if it's worth the investment for you. First off, let's talk about the soundbar itself, the AX3120Q. It's a 3.1.2 channel system, which basically means you get 3 main speakers, a dedicated subwoofer, and 2 upward firing speakers that try to bounce sound off the ceiling for that object-based Dolby Atmos effect. In practice, when I set it up in a medium-sized living room about 12 feet by 15 feet, the upward firing drivers actually added a noticeable sense of height to explosions in an action movie, but they didn't create the full-blown ceiling wrap you might get from a larger, multi-speaker setup. That's not a deal-breaker, but it's worth noting, the Atmos effect is more of a subtle lift rather than a full immersion. What really mattered for daily use was dialogue clarity. The soundbar's quick-touch EQ modes let you switch between a movie preset that emphasizes vocal frequencies and a music preset that opens up the mid-range a bit. On a sitcom episode with rapid back-and-forth banter, the movie mode kept every line intelligible without you having to crank up the volume, which is a real win for people who hate shouting over the TV. Bass performance is another common pain point, especially with a 100-inch picture where you want the low end to feel impactful but not overwhelming. The bundled subwoofer is a compact unit that slots into a corner, and in a room with a hardwood floor it delivered a punchy thump that added weight to action scenes without rattling picture frames. However, if your space has a lot of soft furnishings, think plush carpets and heavy curtains, the sub can feel a little muted because those materials absorb some of the low frequencies. That's not a flaw in the product, it's just physics. If you have a fairly open floor plan, you'll notice the bass as a pleasant undercurrent that complements the on-screen drama. If your room is tightly packed with furniture, you might want to keep the sub's volume a notch lower to avoid a boomy feel. Connectivity is where the bundle starts to feel a bit more thoughtful. The soundbar doubles as a Fire TV hub, so you can stream Netflix, Disney+, or Prime Video directly without needing an extra streaming stick. The HDMI ARC port connects cleanly to the Hisense 100-inch TV, which means you get a single remote for both picture and sound most of the time. Speaking of remotes, the soundbar's remote is a slim, touch-sensitive panel that some people find a little finicky at first. Light taps can be missed if you're used to a clicky button. After a couple of evenings, though, the learning curve flattens and the ability to swipe between EQ presets without digging into menus becomes a genuine convenience. If you already own a universal remote or rely on voice assistants, you can also control the soundbar via Alexa commands, which is handy when you're lounging on the couch. Now, who should actually consider buying this bundle? If you're someone who already owns a large screen and feels the audio is the missing piece, especially if you watch a lot of dialogue-heavy content like dramas, documentaries, or talk shows, this soundbar gives you a clear upgrade without having to invest in a full surround speaker system. It's also a solid fit for gamers who want directional cues from Atmos-enabled titles without cluttering their desk with separate speakers. The QLED TV's HDR support, Dolby Vision, and overall brightness make it a good match for the soundbar's capabilities, creating a cohesive experience where both picture and sound feel high-end. On the flip side, there are scenarios where you might want to skip this bundle. If your primary viewing space is a small bedroom under 10 feet in any dimension, the 100-inch screen could dominate the room, and the soundbar's upward-firing drivers may struggle to create a convincing sense of height because the ceiling is too close. In that case, a more compact soundbar with a dedicated left-right stereo pair might give you cleaner sound without the unnecessary bass that could overwhelm a tiny space. Also, if you're an audiophile who expects true cinema-level surround separation and deep, tight bass that can be fine-tuned via an external receiver, the built-in EQ modes and limited subwoofer placement might feel restrictive. The bundle leans toward convenience and good enough immersion rather than the ultimate high-fidelity setup. A practical strength.